Where do we want to start this episode?
I feel like
we want to get the Alberta thing out of the way. I kind of feel like we got to get the Alberta thing out. No, I mean, we'll keep the Alberta thing for the end.
You're driving the bus. Do what you want. We could start with a bigger picture, kind of the macro, and talk about what's going on a little bit. Just touch on, you shine a light on the macro.
Tell me how the world is coming to an end. Hit me with it.
Well, if you read, all you got to do is spend a little time on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and the world is coming in to an end. And that's not to say that there isn't some serious issues that are happening. I'm not making light of that. But of course, we have to consider and look at the macro picture. A lot of people don't look at it. I happen to look at it, and I look at it very closely. So, of course, we've got what's happening, Russia and Ukraine, and sanctions. And those sanctions are all part of what's going on in the UN. And we've got Germany, we've got the UK, Europe, all having issues around where are they going to get their energy from, sources of energy. We've got governments that are actually saying you're not allowed to cut the trees to heat your homes this winter, and you're not going to have enough gas and or fuel to heat your homes. It's very, very dramatic, and I certainly don't want to minimize the seriousness of it. So as we sit here in Canada, we seem to have an endless supply of energy. We don't seem to be having those same issues, although we have the threat of those issues, and we also have the threat of rising costs. The point is this. Is when we look into the future and what does it mean to us as real estate investors, aside of business owners or our careers or whatever that might mean, is this. Energy costs are going to continue to rise. We see the volatility a little bit in oil. It's up, it's down. Ultimately, when we look out a year, 6 months, 18 months, oil prices are going to continue to rise. We're exporting as much oil as we can possibly export out of Canada right now. That's a pipeline conversation. The point is this: if we're thinking that inflation is going to get handled, JG, because interest rates are up, it's just not the case. We'll see maybe the impact on housing, no doubt about it. We're feeling those effects. But ultimately, inflation is being driven and will continue to be driven by energy costs, because everything is based on energy.
But don't you think, Patrick, really soon, like inflation really, and I don't have a chart in front of me here, but inflation really set in, like, it would like, as we move forward and as the comparables and the base effect kicks in, naturally the inflation is going to start going down, because we were hitting 8% inflation and 7.8 and 6 and so on and so forth. And as we go forward, even if inflation moderates a little bit, because the base is so much larger than what it was, it will appear like it's coming down. I'm not saying it is, but it will appear like it's coming down.
Well, but let's not step over that, because it's an important point, because that's what the general public gets fooled into thinking is, these interest rates, good thing they got those interest rates so high. Look how much it's bringing down inflation. And the reality of it is that, to your point, is that the base rate has, gone so high, and it shows that you would think that's what's happening when that's not what's happening. The point of all of that is that when we're paying attention to interest rates and we think that interest rates are what is fixing inflation, it's just not the case. It's as simple as that. We still have supply chain issues. We still have the cost of transportation. We still have the breakdown of what's happening in China. China's right now a shit show. It still is a shit show, and we're at the effect of that. So and there's lag time with all of that. Now, container rates, for example, have come right down to almost pre-pandemic levels in terms of, they were $22,000 for a container at the peak, when, now they're back down to, I don't know what the number is. I'm going to say $5,000, $6,000.
I just bought a container last week.
Oh, so. What, and what'd you pay for it?
It was actually cheaper than when I looked at buying a container before COVID in 2019.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, this is a used container. I mean, I'm a sample of one here. So,
but the thing that we have to pay attention to, because I want to relate this to real estate, what it means to us in Canada from real estate point of view. And, when we look at what's happening economically, China is in rough shape economically. In spite of what it may sound like, they are challenged. They've got they still have a zero COVID policy in place, and they keep shutting places down. I mean, entire cities. It's just a gong show. And so that's going to affect the cost of goods, is what I'm saying in all of that regard. So these are things that we have to look at what's happening economically and how that affects us from a real estate point of view, and how it affects us economically.